Hey everyone, it's Jeannie, and today I am back to share a shaker card with you guys today. It's a fun one filled with coffee beans. I am using the stamp set and stencil from Erin Lee Creative's Coffee Lover kit, and then Lawn Fawn stitched frames and W+9's That Is All stamp set. I used a combination of Erin Lee Creative's Coffee Lover stamps with the W+9 sentiment set to create my own custom sentiment because I am creating a birthday card and I wanted to mix and match both of these. I am doing a bit of masking because I wanted to have the words sending you good vibes and good coffee for your birthday. And the W+9 That Is All stamp set had all the words I needed, and the Erin Lee Creative Coffee Lover stamp set had the good vibes and good coffee. This card is going out to someone who loves coffee, and I thought that this would be the perfect card for it. I'm also creating a shaker card today. I do use a die that is used for creating the shaker outline. However, I will also be showing how to create a frame without the die. I am using one of the images from Erin Lee Creative's Coffee Lover stamp set, and it is one of my favorites. I actually really love overhead shots, and this is an overhead of a girl drinking coffee in the morning, and I just need to color her in. I'm doing basic coloring with Copic markers. I'm going in with my darkest color, blending out with my mid-tone, and then filling out the rest of the area with my lightest tone, blending out all the different colors. For the darker tones, I'm just putting it where I believe all the shadows will be, and then I will be coloring it up. So I'm working on getting my coloring overhead working so I'm not blocking my coloring. I have a tendency to hold my pen straight up, so it definitely blocks all the coloring. So here I'm coloring kind of at a tilt, so it's a little bit easier to see, and I think that hopefully you guys can pick up on what I'm doing, and I think that I do enough coloring videos that you guys can kind of figure it out, but I know that it just takes practice. It took me a really long time just to get used to coloring with Copics and finding the right combinations. And I was thinking that maybe on my blog post, I might create a section where it's just Copic combinations because I don't have all the Copic colors, but I do use the same combinations all the time. And if you pay close attention to the videos and the colors that I use, I tend to use the same combinations. So if you're interested, I think that maybe I'll put together that list because I was organizing my markers and I realized I just don't have that many. And you know what? I don't need that many because these colors that I have in my collection kind of fill the void. I think yellow is one of the hardest colors to get dimension from though, and so I'm still struggling on trying to find the right combination to get the dimension I want, and I think that this one works out well. The Y17 is the darkest yellow, and then I believe I used the Y02, which is the lightest yellow, and it really works where it can create dimension. But I think yellow is one of the hardest colors to get that dimension because it's so bright, and it's kind of hard to just make it look fun and dimensional. So I'm just finishing off and coloring up the coffee cup, and I think that this is one of the images where I'm not using that many colors, and the only reason I use a lot of colors is because I like the dimension that it provides. If you are a person that doesn't really care about the coloring, you can easily color these up with one Copic marker per image or item, and or even two, and you would still be able to create a card with it, and it would be faster and easier than how I'm coloring, but my preference is to add that dimension. So I pulled out a piece of cream colored cardstock in my stash, and I am using distress ink in antique linen to kind of darken up the edges. I kind of want it to look like a vintagey coffee stained piece of paper or a piece of parchment, and I think that that is achieved here. So for my frame itself, I went with a dark brown cardstock, and I'm using Lawn Fawn stitch frames to cut out my border. So if you have this die, that's great, and I like it because it has that stitching, but if you don't, this is how you create a frame easily without a die. So I am pulling out a piece of A2 cardstock and I am marking off, I think 3/8 of an inch on each side, and using my T ruler just to make the lines so I know where to cut. When I started card making, I didn't have a ton of dies, and the shaker was like my first interactive card I did, and this is how I created it. I just created my own frames, I used my paper trimmer, and I was able to cut it. So I have the Fisker's paper trimmer, which is a great trimmer because it has the dimensions on both sides, so you can see exactly where you want to cut. Also, it has the wire that shows you where on the line that you want to cut. So I just put it into my paper trimmer and I'm using the blade, which kind of matches up with the lines that I created, and I know exactly where to cut. So I just lift it and bring it into the middle of the card panel, and I'll just cut exactly where I need to and stop it where the line shows me. So it works really well, and this is the way that I was able to create frames when I didn't have the dies. I will say that although I know dies are super expensive, there are some that are definitely worth investing in, and I think the stitch frames was one of my very first dies that I got, mainly because I wanted to do a bunch of shaker cards. And this is perfect for it, and you can use it for so many other reasons, but I tend to pull it out whenever I'm doing a full shaker card. So for the rest of my card panel, I am just using the Coffee Lover stencil that is in that coffee kit. I believe it's still on sale. It's a really good deal, and I kind of love it. If you love coffee, I love coffee. I have to drink it every morning, and so this is perfect. And I love how this looks like you kind of just like put your cup on this piece of paper and it left that mark because your coffee had it spilled over on your cup and it's like at the bottom. So I thought it was really cool. I also wanted to add another stamp from this stamp set that says Coffee Lover, and I'm just using one of the distress inks and stamping it out. Distress inks aren't meant to stamp out images, but I kind of liked how it looked grainy and I thought it was perfect. So for the shaker frame itself, I am putting double-sided adhesive on the frame, and then I will be putting my acetate right on top of it. So you want the acetate to be slightly smaller than the frame itself so it doesn't overlap. Because I'm using actual coffee beans, I'm going to need 2 layers of foam. For any other shaker card, you can probably get away with one, but in this case, because I'm using actual beans, they're a little bit thicker. And as a warning, if you send it in the mail, it will cost you more money to send because it is thicker and it can't be processed through the machine. So I think I paid about $3 to ship this card, and that was absolutely fine because it's such a fun one and the smell is so strong. So I actually walked down the street to Pete's because it's nearby, and I got this sample size of French roast because you can like get any amount you want. So if you're not a coffee drinker but you're making this card for a coffee lover, you can just ask them for the smallest amount possible, and I think it's like a few bucks, maybe even less. I can't really remember, but yeah. So I just poured out a few beans because I wanted to see how many would fit in and how it would look, and also some of the bean shapes are a little bit bigger than others. So I tried to pick out the smallest beans possible so they didn't get stuck within the shaker. So once I added the 2 layers of foam, adhering it to my back panel, and I'm just using my glass mat as kind of a way of making sure everything is lined up. So once I have everything lined up, I'll go ahead and close it, which I only removed one of the adhesives on one of the sides, and then I went ahead and removed a second side. So it kind of forms like a cup that I can pour the coffee beans into, and I can actually like change my mind if the beans were too big or too small. And I ended up throwing in a ton of beans and I kind of loved it. I barely used the amount that I got from the sample size, so I can make more shaker cards if I really want to. Once I decided of a good amount, because I wanted the coffee lover stamp to show up as well, I went ahead and removed the adhesive, and I want to make sure that everything moves nicely and nothing gets stuck before I closed it down. So once I closed it down, I'm going to go ahead and attach all my images. I fussy cut the girl holding the coffee cup. and my sentiments are all in strips. So I'm using my T ruler just to make sure that everything is straight, and I'm going to adhere it. I use double-sided adhesive for all of this because it's just easier than liquid glue. So yeah, that's it for today's card. I hope you enjoy it, and maybe you can smell it through this video, but it smells delicious. And I will see you guys next time for another video. Bye!